What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Sanjit back at it with another video. The Raiders have officially secured the number one overall pick, and we're gonna talk about this, man, because the Raiders are on track to be a Super Bowl champion. Hopefully soon, right? Hopefully soon. I'm excited as hell, man, to really get into this. We're gonna talk about it. I should just throw this out there right as we kind of start. Um, if the Raiders had lost this game, it actually would have been better for us in terms of, although, yes, we get the number one overall pick. Technically, now in round 2 and 3, I believe there's 3 teams that have 3 wins. There might actually only be 2, so don't quote me on that. But uh, basically, now we're going to be switching in the second and third rounds with the other team. So we'll technically in the second round be picking with the 34th overall pick, and then in the third round, whatever it ends up coming out to, it'll be like the third pick in the third round. So it's not a huge deal. At the end of the day, we still get the first overall pick, but technically losing would have been a little bit better. But I'll take a win against Kansas City Chiefs any day of the week, especially if this was Travis Kelce's final game, right? He'll go out with a loss, but we'll see. He might not even retire at this point. I'm excited, man. You guys can see the smile on my face. Obviously, we got the first overall pick, and we actually knew this before the game actually even begun. The Giants ended up beating the Cowboys, and a shout out to the Cowboys, man. If they wanted to go into that game and actually try, they could probably beat the Giants, but they were already knocked out. And although they've tried up, in all the other games, in this game they decided not to. And I guess Dak Prescott played one drive and then came off the field. So it is what it is. A shout out to the Cowboys for helping the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders get the number one overall pick. And honestly, the Cowboys may have done it selfishly so the Giants get a lesser of a pick. So who knows if that was something they kind of decided and thought about. Um, but yeah, the Raiders have the number one overall pick. And it'll be interesting, again, to see who the Raiders end up drafting, right? Right now, everybody's saying Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number one overall pick, but we'll see if that holds up. Last year around this time, everybody said it'd be Shador Sanders. That did not hold up, right? And then even just kind of going over the last draft classes, when Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams were coming out and Trevor Lawrence, yes, they were considered the best. They were the number one picks. But we've had guys like, hey, Malik Willis might be the first overall pick or Kenny Pickett, only to see these guys fall, right? So we'll see how things kind of continue to develop with the quarterbacks. It's going to be a very, very, very fun offseason. I'm going to just start right there. And if Pete Carroll gets fired today as we're live, let me know so we can kind of talk about it. Marky Mark, shout out to you. I can't wait to watch your videos this offseason. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. These last 6, 7, 8 weeks have been brutal as a Raiders content creator. And I'm sure some of you guys feel the same way. Just watching the Raiders, it's tough, right? Like, we all love the Raiders and we all want to watch this team have success and win games. And this is probably one of the harder seasons to have been a Raiders fan. The season was pretty much over after like 5, 6 weeks. We already knew we sucked, right? And I'm just glad that the season's over and we can move forward and we can start focusing on the off season, the team building phase, essentially, right? I'm excited we can get to this point as we continue to go forward. A lot of people talking about Mendoza. Kubiak Mendoza would be an interesting one. I think there was a report earlier today, and I don't think it was like official or anything like that, but basically it was put out saying that, hey, the Raiders may look, and maybe it had to do with Tom Brady potentially in his connections. Uh, Apparently the Raiders are thinking about potentially bringing Brian Flores and Brian Dable over. And Flores at that point would be the head coach, and Dable would be the offensive coordinator, which I think would make sense if those two guys were the guys to come over, given Flores is still technically a defensive coordinator. He's not going to be fired, so he would need to move up a job. And Dable was fired, so he would go down a position. So I think that would make sense. And in that instance, we could technically keep Patrick Graham if we wanted to. Obviously, in that instance, Patrick Graham would be a defensive coordinator only, in title. He wouldn't actually be calling the plays. Brian Flores would be calling the plays. And I say we could keep Patrick Graham in that instance because Patrick Graham and Brian Flores have been, they've worked together in the past. They both come from the Bill Belichick tree. I think they've spent 2 years together under Bill Belichick. And they run a very similar scheme, right? If Patrick Graham needs to decide his scheme and his system, very similar to Brian Flores is. So if the Raiders wanted to go with those group of guys, right, Flores and a Dable, I wouldn't mind, but I'm a Clint Kubiak guy, right? I still think at the end of the day, you got to get your offensive coordinator. If he's the next great coach on the offensive side, you got to bring him in. Kubiak, Mendoza, as this comment says, to me makes the most sense. Now, I know a lot of Raider fans want Tyler Linderbaum. I'm not as high on Linderbaum as I think other people are. You know, I've watched this guy very, very closely. I think he's a little overrated. Um, and he's really, really good as a run blocker. Absolutely elite in terms of like angles and getting in front of people and making those blocks. But he's just not that strong. He kind of gets pushed around a little bit. Tyler Linderbaum, for example, is not like Creed Humphrey, for example, right? Creed Humphrey's clearly better than Tyler Linderbaum. And I think Jackson Powers Johnson's a lot better than Tyler Linderbaum as well. And I don't think it's close. That's not me being biased. I just think the tape backs that up, right? I could show you guys 30 snaps right now from the last 5 weeks when Linderbaum's getting pushed around, right? Uh, and again, I know a lot of Raider fans want him. I would not want him. I think the Raiders could if they're going to pay an offensive lineman $20 million, you can get a much better offensive lineman. And I don't even know if that's Linderbaum's value, right? But I know Drew Dalman, for example, signed, I think, maybe a little bit less than that, but like he's pretty close to that. Did the defense play lights out, or was KC's quarterback just that bad? The Kansas City Chiefs, man, they had I think I don't even know if it was their third or I don't even know. I don't think it was even their fourth string tackling. So they had Wanya Morris, I believe he was the one starting at left tackle. Their right tackle was their international pathway player program. Like I don't even know if he's gonna be on the team next year. Uh, yeah, they had their IPP player out there playing right tackle. So I do think that the Kansas City Chiefs, I do think the defense looked a little bit better, a little bit more fired up. Obviously, it was the last game of the season as well. And we also got, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there were a lot of uh, for the Raiders, there are a lot of our young players, right? I'm pretty sure Tonka Hemingway and Pagee started like the entire game. And I think both of them got a sack each. And then Tyree had 1 or 2 sacks as well. So the Raiders defense definitely did look good out there. But again, you know, keep in mind, I think Casey's quarterback's really not that good. Let's get into some more of these super chats. So this one, Christian, shout out to you. Quick draft grades on our rookies. That is hard, man. That is such a hard thing to do. Because there's like upside in talent, and then there's actual production. You know, if you're gonna only base it off of production, you can say Ashton Jeanty like a B based off the production, and it wasn't terrible, right? He was pretty good this year. You definitely see the flashes, you see the upside, but he did have a lot of runs, and it's not his fault, right? The offensive line obviously kind of sucks, but like Ashton Jeanty, I'd say B. Jack Bech, if we're being honest, is like a D. So, given the fact that he really didn't have a bunch of production, you can say pretty much every guy like C, D, F, pretty much for most of our picks, minus Ashton Jeanty. But when you say upside, you think about the potential, that's different, right? I think Ashton Jeanty is going to end up becoming one of the best running backs. I think Charles Grant looked really good out there today. We'll have to watch his tape tomorrow. He played all the second half, and I believe he played all of the second quarter as well. He may have came in at some point. It's hard grading, right? Because there's upside and potential, and then there's like, like in the media, like the gotcha like quotes and those type of things. If you want to do the whole gotcha grades, and you can say Ashton Jeanty was a terrible pick, and you can say Kyle Monange was better because he averages more yards per rush. But at the end of the day, Monange, one, is a second string running back. Two, he's in one of the best run schemes in the NFL. He has a really good offense line. It's just a completely different situation, right? So again, draft grades kind of hard, but I do appreciate the comment. Robert said, I really hope the next coaching staff can properly develop whichever quarterback we end up choosing. I think John Spytek is a solid general manager and will do a good job building this team. The one thing I will say is, there was a report, I believe like a week and a half ago, that Ashton Jeanty wasn't even John Spytek's pick. Apparently, it was Pete Carroll that pushed for it. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, to be honest with you, because it just seems like it's the type of comment or report that like someone like John Spytek would himself put out there, right, through like his media sources. But I 100% agree with you. And the thing is the term development, it's kind of overrated, right? Because how much do guys really truly develop? How much do guys actually, like, realistically, how much do guys actually get better? Right? Yes, you take the year one to year two leap, but like for example, with Malcolm Koonce, we always knew this guy had elite pass rushing abilities pretty much from his rookie season. If you guys go back to the preseason of Malcolm Koonce's rookie year, in the very first preseason, I remember he went up against the Jags, and I think it was the only game he was like, he came out and started and played the entire first quarter. And I think it was the third preseason game that year. The guy had like 2 sacks, multiple quarterback hits. Like, he dominated out there, and you just saw it, right? You knew this guy was going to be good at some point. With Tyree Wilson, it was the opposite, right? He struggled. And yes, development's a real thing. Guys do get better, but it's not like you're gonna draft a guy like Tyree Wilson and then out of nowhere he's gonna become the next Khalil Mack, right? If you draft a prospect that's not that good, you're probably not gonna get a whole lot out of that, right? Um, so yeah, I do agree with you though. I hope John Spytek gets this Raiders team rolling. I will say this from John Spytek. I'm a huge believer in Charles Grant from his college tape, and for our general manager to agree with that and draft this guy in the third round, at least that tells me, what I might evaluate in an offensive lineman, our general manager evaluates it the same way. Because Charles Grant, keep in mind, is different than, if you take like Trent Brown, for example, they're different type of offensive tackles. And there's a bunch of Trent Brown guys that came out this year, right? And our general manager didn't take those guys. He took Charles Grant, right? So, he, to me, we'll see if that kind of actually develops as we kind of go forward. Hot take: we need more than a quarterback. I agree, but I also think the Raiders are in a really good spot to be able to make it work. We have 10 picks this year. We have a first round pick, a second round pick, a third round pick, and we have 3 fourth round picks. And I don't know exactly where the fourth round picks will all end up falling, at least on the top of my head, but they're going to be somewhere in like the top 120 picks. So if you can get potentially 6 guys in the top 120 picks, and you don't have to have superstars, but like, let's just say let's say you get a franchise quarterback with that first overall pick, and let's say in the second round you get a defensive tackle that is good, very very solid. Doesn't have to be a superstar, but he's a really good football player. And round 3 or 4, maybe you add a guard, maybe you add a linebacker, and you get production out of that guy. And then you just get a bunch of role players after that, right? In the fourth round, you get 3 role players that, they don't have to be superstars, but again, they're role players. You could get onto a point where you also have over $100 million in cap space. And this isn't the cap space we had last year, right? Last year we had, all of our best players were becoming free agents. Splain, Diablo, Nate Hobbs, Trayvon Merrick, across the board. We had a bunch of guys that were essentially free agents. So we had 100 million, but we had 15 guys that started that were free agents. This year, we don't have any of that, and we still have $100 million. Right? A lot of our cap comes from some of the dead caps and bad contracts that we've had over the years. So all that stuff's kind of clearing up. So I think the Raiders will make it work, right? I think they will. What's your coaching staff of choice? Head coach, OC, DC? Easily, I think Clint Kubiak as your head coach. At that point, your OC does not matter because Clint Kubiak is essentially your OC. And as your defensive coordinator, it's such a hard, it's a hard thing to figure out at that point because there's good defensive coordinators that are already defensive coordinators, right? Like Vic Fangio's not going to just come over here, right? He already has a good thing kind of going. You can say maybe Patrick Graham, but some people are saying, hey, his contract's expiring. He's not going to be back. So that kind of makes sense as well. It's hard, right? Because for your DC, you could potentially look for a coach that, will be fired or has been fired. And I think that could potentially make sense as well. But let's be honest, if, I don't even know which coaches have been fired that were DCs. Brian Dable has been fired. I can't even think of any other coach that's been fired at this point. So yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard, but we'll see, right? I think at the end of the day, if you get a good offensive coach, offensive play caller, I think nothing else really matters. We'll figure it out. We'll make some videos. We'll talk about some of the candidates. Raider J said, I'm all for cutting Geno Smith if it saves his money against the cap in the long run. AOC bridge quarterback. Aiden Connell looked pretty good today. But this is kind of what we always have seen from Aiden, right? He's always just kind of looked good. He's never been able to take us over the top. I'm gonna be honest. I think the Raiders would be smarter just to keep Geno Smith if you don't need the cap space. And I say that because injuries happen, right? If Geno Smith was available for trade, do you guys think the Bengals at some point before trading for Joe Flacco may have potentially traded for Geno Smith? The Colts, maybe they, right? Obviously, I know Daniel Jones got hurt after the trade deadline, but would the Colts have potentially traded for Geno Smith? Injuries happen every year. The Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes might not be ready for week one. Maybe they want to try winning. Could they potentially give us a pick for Geno Smith? I know cutting him saves us $8 million, but we're already going to incur an $18 million dead cap hit no matter what. Why not just keep him on the roster? He's still an asset at the end of the day, and he's going to help whichever quarterback comes. He's going to help him get ready, right? How to prepare, how to be a professional quarterback. Being a professional matters. It really does matter in the NFL. You can't be childish in the NFL the way you may be able to be in college. The NFL is different, right? There's a lot of people who are a lot older, right? They treat it differently. So I don't think it makes sense for the Raiders. Honestly, I would just keep all three of the quarterbacks under if they're all under contract. I don't know if Kenny Pickett's under contract. I think technically Aiden Connell might not be under contract either. I think this was his fourth season. So again, we'll see what happens as we kind of go forward with some of these guys. But I wouldn't be so into like just get rid of these guys and move forward and then just draft a rookie and that's kind of it, right? We need veteran quarterbacks still. But there's not gonna be one of those situations where it's like Geno's the future. That's not happening at this point, right? We're moving forward, we're getting our quarterback of the future, and we're revamping the offensive line. And this is it right here, man. This is how the Raiders are gonna revamp that offensive line. This is literally it right here. The autumn win, shout out to you. Cole Miller at left tackle, DJ Glaze at left guard, Jackson Powers-Johnson at center, Caleb Rogers at right guard, Charles Grant at right tackle. This should be the offensive line unit for the Raiders. Now, I actually think DJ Glaze might have more upside than Caleb Rogers at guard, but DJ Glaze is also in year two. Rogers is in year one, so we'll kind of reevaluate that next season. But I like DJ Glaze's. I like him when if you put a tight end or two onto his right side. I like what he does in those moments, right? DJ Glaze gets in trouble when you put him out in space as a tackle. There's no one to help him. That's when DJ Glaze loses. That's when he gets his ass kicked. If you moved him to the inside, he'll always kind of have help to the outside. If I'm the Raiders, again, DJ Glaze was a third round pick for a reason. When the Raiders drafted him, I thought he would be a guard for the Raiders. And he obviously got kicked out to right tackle, but as a guard, I think DJ Glaze has some potential. Now, this is the unit that I would go forward with if I'm the Raiders. I've already put this out on social media. These are the five guys. I would also just throw this out there. If the Raiders wanted to pay a guard or trade for a guard, like a top tier guy, like let's say Damian Lewis of the Carolina Panthers, he's been there for 2 years now. He might have 1 year left on his contract. If the Panthers want a fourth round pick, potentially, I would trade that and I would bring Damian Lewis over. I think he's locked in at about 13 million a year. And in that instance, just put DJ Glaze at right guard and maybe let him compete with Caleb Rogers and then put Damian Lewis in at left guard. And that gives you a really, really, really good foundation on the offensive line. Colt Miller, Damian Lewis, Jackson Powers-Johnson, some combination of Glaze and Rogers, and then Charles Grant. I think that's a good offensive line. Of course, you got Clint Kubiak running everything. To me, that's gonna be it right there. Huge, huge, huge shout out to Octavius Prescott, man. I appreciate the $50 super chat, man. Shout out to you. You're always donating. You're always supporting the channel. So huge shout out to you, man. End of the season gift for you, Sanjit. In my honest opinion, you're the best Raiders content creator. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I enjoy your film study and your opinions are informed. Looking forward to your offseason analysis. Let me know if you're coming to Pittsburgh for the draft. I appreciate that, man. I really, really, really do appreciate that. I probably will not be able to make it. Your comment got cut off, but you also put in parentheses, I live there. So shout out to you, man. I really do appreciate this. I probably will not be able to make it to Pittsburgh for the draft. My wife and I have a baby on the way. He should be here. It's a boy. He should be here in the next like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I'll have a really, really young newborn baby. So I definitely won't be able to make it out there. And I do appreciate the comment, right? I really do appreciate it. Sometimes it is hard being a content creator. A lot of people might think like it's easy, but it's not, because there's so many times when like so many times, right? Where like you're laying in bed and then bam, your coach gets fired and now you got to get up and make content. Or like I'll relax for, I'll be up here, I'll make a video, and then out of nowhere some news happens. And now I have to re-record. I have to spend another hour like making the video, editing the video, and then the hour already spent making the other video that just gets deleted, and you guys never see it because it's deleted. It's essentially gone, right? But if you guys were able to log into my YouTube profile, you guys will see a bunch of unlisted videos, just like random videos that will never be posted at this point, right? So I appreciate this. I really do appreciate it, man. And I appreciate all of you guys' support. I actually came across a tweet from 4 years ago. I had 15,000 followers on YouTube 4 years ago, just wild. Now I think I'm approaching like 70,000 or somewhere around there. So shout out to all you guys, man. I really appreciate the super chat, Octavius. Always appreciate your support. Let's get into some more of these comments. Signed Derek Carr 1 year as a bridge quarterback for Mendoza. Alternative bridge quarterback, maybe Kirk Cousins. I think we should just keep Geno Smith. I mean, we're already paying him $18 million. What is the difference between Geno Smith, Derek Carr, or Kirk Cousins? There's really no difference. The only difference is we're going to spend more money bringing in some of these quarterbacks. Like Kirk, just to be a bridge, is going to say, I want $15 million. Again, I think for the Raiders, it just does not make sense at this point. Now, I do think the Raiders, I don't know if Derek Carr ever signed a contract and actually officially retired with the Raiders. He may have. Don't quote me, but I don't remember if he actually did. But I have a lot of respect for Derek Carr. I think he was such a great quarterback for the Raiders. AT, shout out to you, said, give me Mendoza to Alex Pierce. That's an interesting one. He's really developed and looked good this year. Alex Pierce has looked good. I think he hit over 1,000 yards this season. But we also, what's the cost, right? Is Alex Pierce going to cost over $20 million? Because that is, I think, what the wide receiver market looks like. I think for the Raiders, you already have Brock Bowers, you already have Michael Mayer, and they're both under contract. You have Ashton Jeanty under contract. Those are three really good players to have under contract. Two of the three are superstars, right? Let's add a wide receiver in the draft. And if it's not this year, maybe we wait a year. If we get another top 10 pick next year, there's going to be 2 or 3 really good wide receivers coming out. Alternatively, what we could do is if there's a wide receiver that's a game changer in this class, we could trade our pick next year for a pick this year. The Jaguars did that with the Cleveland Browns. The Jags ended up trading up, and they got Travis Hunter, while the Browns ended up trading back for next year's pick. So essentially, the Browns gave up pick 3, and right now the Jags pick sitting at like 25. So you essentially gave up the 3rd overall pick for a pick way, wherever it ended up being. I know they swap picks as well in the first round, but there's no Travis Hunter type of player, I think, in this class. So yeah, that's my opinion. There's no player like Travis Hunter you're going to get with pick 25. But yeah, I don't know if I would sign a wide receiver, to be honest, you guys. I think for the Raiders, drafting is always going to be the right way. And if you're going to sign a wide receiver, it has to be a difference maker. And the only wide receiver, and I probably wouldn't even sign him, the only difference-making wide receiver that's going to be available is probably going to be George Pickens, and that's only if the Cowboys don't lock him in. I don't even know if I would sign George Pickens because that has the ability to bust out. Now, Pickens is a really good wide receiver. If you have Clint Kubiak and Pickens is playing under Clint Kubiak, you could make that work potentially. And the Raiders have the cap. There's a rule. I think a lot of people don't know about this. There is a rule right now in football where you have to spend a certain amount of cash every year, and the Raiders have to commit, I think it's like $265 million in cash. So I think we have I forget the exact numbers, but I think we have I can't even remember, maybe like $150 million in cash that we have to still commit this year. And I think like 60 or 70 million of that cash will come from the draft. We'll have another $80-90 million in cap that we have to commit. So we have to actually sign people. We can't just go into next year and say we're not going to spend that. Like the NFL requires you to spend that money. So we're going to make some things happen, right? And we'll see if it ends up being maybe it's George Pickens and he gets 30 million or whatever it ends up being, right? We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening for 10 Commandments and my New Year's resolution to be Pete Carroll free, the area where we feel the most work, headed by Carrolls. I agree. 100% agree with you. The report is right now is that Pete Carroll is going to be fired at this point. So We'll see. We'll see. I think it's definitely going to potentially happen. I appreciate the super chat, JT Douglas. Who is your second pick in the draft? The best tackle potentially. Um, that's a really good question. If I'm the Raiders, obviously we're going to go quarterback with the first round pick. There are some guys, so Spencer Fanos, the starting right tackle of Utah, their left tackle is pretty good as well. I forget the guy's name. I think it's Caleb something. He's pretty damn good as well. There's another guy. I think it's Cleo Barnes. No, I don't think it was Cleo. I think that's the Raiders' former tackle. I forget the guy's name, but he was on Colorado last year, and I think he's the Indiana starting tackle. I think he's going to be legit, man. I think he's their starting right tackle as well. I believe his last name is Barnes, or it might be Cleo. I forget what it is. But he's a guy that I'm very, very high on. And I don't think a lot of people are that high on him right now because he's not even considered a top 7 round pick at this point. I don't even know if PFF has him ranked in like their mock draft simulator. But I guarantee you guys right now, his stock's going to go up. He's gonna be a good tackle. Wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the first 5 tackles taken in this class. If he's there, I would consider him maybe, but I also am a believer that I think Charles Grant deserves an opportunity, given how he's kind of played for the Raiders. I think defensive tackle makes a lot of sense. Oregon has a couple of them that are coming out this year that I think are really good. Not really good. I think Bear Alexander's kind of been up and down, but Washington, the other guys, I think some people say he's the best defensive tackle coming out this year. Caleb Banks, another guy from Florida. I don't know where he kind of ranks, but like if Washington or Banks are available, I would draft those guys. The Raiders could get a lot better on the defensive side. So um, I'd probably focus on the defensive side. I don't think drafting a wide receiver in the second round makes sense. You either draft one in the top 5 or you don't draft one at all, unless it's a super deep draft that generally doesn't happen. You could draft a running back. I wouldn't mind drafting another running back in the second round. I know some people are going to disagree with that. But if you get Clint Kubiak over here, who runs one of the elite run games, like Zamir White's not going to be the guy, right? You need another running back. And yeah, second round pick might be high, but nothing says a running back has to be a true running back. You can put a guy as a running back, you can put him as a slot. You can do so many different things. And better off having an elite playmaker on the offensive side than a bust who never works out, right? If you go with a different position. So we'll see. We'll see what the Raiders kind of focus in on. I'm just going to put this out there. Draft Mendoza and hire Kignetti. All that man does is win. Uh, I'm not gonna disagree with you, man. He's a good coach. He really is. He has Indiana rolling, and that too. Like I believe is the second quarterback from second straight year, and now they got a third quarterback coming in. They got I forget who it was. They got another quarterback commit that just committed to him earlier today, and then I think Mendoza's brother's there too. So he'll have 4 different quarterbacks in like a 4-year span. Um, he is a good coach. I agree with you, but again, I would stick with the NFL guys, maybe Clint Kubiak. What do you think of the quarterbacks next year? Trade back? Question mark. You know, it, it's a great question. Um, the Bears got lucky. They traded the first overall pick to the Panthers. They got the first overall pick, which was the Panthers pick. The following year, they get Caleb Williams. It's not guaranteed to happen like that, right? You look at the Browns as a great example. They traded with the Jags, and they thought that'd be a top 5 pick potentially. It ended up being a bottom 10 pick, at least right now. And who knows what the Jags do in the playoffs? If they win the Super Bowl, it'd be the last pick in the first round. I think the Raiders should just draft the quarterback. It's not guaranteed, and I don't even really know any of the quarterbacks coming out next year. There are some guys that are like hyped, but who thought Fernando Mendoza last year? Who thought he was going to be a top 5 pick this year? All right, so that always changes. You just never know what's going to end up happening. Um, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening as we just kind of go forward. Uh, I thought Charles Grant looked good, better than Forsythe. I agree with that. Forsythe's definitely not the future for the Raiders. I don't know why Charles Grant didn't play more. I obviously expected Charles Grant to play today. So I'm glad he did. And he looked good to me from what I could tell, but like it's not like we had a lot of success across the board, right? There was still pressure on the quarterback. We will definitely go check out this guy's tape tomorrow. That'll probably be the film breakdown for tomorrow is going to be Charles Grant. It 30, 40 minutes probably, truth be told, right? I think we're going to really get into this guy, watch every single one of his snaps, because this could be the future for the Raiders, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. If he doesn't look good, I'm gonna put that out there, say he sucks, right? I'll be honest with you guys. Um, for the this is gonna be the third year now, right? 2 years ago it was Thayer Munford's the future, right? That's what a lot of people were saying. Last year it was DJ Glaze's the future. That's what a lot of people were saying. This year it's gonna be Charles Grant's the future, right? And look, I didn't like Thayer Munford. I didn't really like DJ Glaze. Charles Grant, I liked him, right? I liked him pre-draft. So I'll be honest, guys, when that time comes tomorrow, what I kind of think of him. Shout out to all you guys for the comments. I appreciate it. Congrats. I see all you guys. I appreciate it a lot. I really do appreciate that. Um, let's get into more of your guys' comments. The beauty of the Oregon Indiana college football game, we get to see both top prospects against top flight defenses. That's a great point. Uh, has this ever happened before where the number one, number two potential picks played each other? That too, both defenses are really good. Our Oregon's loaded with talent, have some great linebackers, some great defensive linemen. The thing I would say about this game, though, is I think Indiana's defensive coordinator is really good. I forget the guy's name, but from what I've seen, he's a great defensive coordinator. And I think he was a former linebacker. He coached at like UC Davis in the past. I forget where else he coached, but like, um, he's good. He's really good. And some people think he's going to become one of the better defensive coaches as we keep going forward. So Oregon might be at a mismatch here because of that, but we'll see, man. I'm excited for the college football playoffs. Uh, but it's been a weird year for the college football playoffs, right? You get teams that are clearly not meant to play in the college football playoffs, right? Pickens feels like he'd cause trouble. And this is the only thing that I struggle with potentially bringing in George Pickens, right? Is just the fact that I'm not 100% sold that his mindset and his attitude is right. The talent's always been there. It's never been a question about talent. It's always been the character issue, not even character issues. I don't know if that's the right term, but like, can he read and pick up an offense, right? And I know he obviously had success with the Cowboys, but the Cowboys, just throw the ball a lot. So wide receivers will have success when you're going to throw the ball like the Cowboys do. But when you get into an offense that's a run first offense and you got to block, are you going to block? Or are you going to be angry that you're not getting targets, right? So I agree with you 100% on that. And my comment was really just, if you're going to get a wide receiver, he needs to be a game changer, right? So like Alex Pierce, what's he going to cost, right? How much money is he going to want? Is he worth 23 million, or are you better paying Pickens 30 million or a little bit more? But he's a better game, he's more of a game changer. But then you get the other side of it too, right? Shout out to you, Mr. MCG92. Hey, mate, just wanted to say thank you for the great content. Go Raiders. Love from Australia. Huge shout out to you, man. I really appreciate this. Yeah, I appreciate all of you guys' comments. I always see, and I don't get into every single one of them. I always try getting into to as many comments as I can. Today, we have way too many super chats. So as we get towards the end of this, we'll get into some other non-super chat comments. I always appreciate it, man. I really do. I made a video, I think, yesterday and or 2 days ago, and it was instantly demonetized. I put some Fernando Mendoza tape in there, instantly demonetized, and that happens to a lot of the videos where we're putting tape in, right? Uh, Dom Cut, shout out to you. Said, do you think we trade down in the second round again? There's a good chance we do. There's actually a really good chance the Raiders will trade down once again and stack up their picks. If John Spytek did this once in the past, there's a good chance. And he didn't just do it like one time. The guy did it multiple times. He traded down. I think there's a real chance the Raiders do trade down. Yeah, we already have 10 picks right now, but Spytek is thinking, and he's planning for the future. He might say, hey, we'll trade this second round pick. We'll move down 10 picks, but we'll get another second, 10 picks later, and then we'll just add a third round pick next year or a fourth round pick next year. And he's going to continue to stack those picks up. And I don't disagree with that. But I will say this, last year, Spytek, he passed on Luther Burden, and I think most of you guys will agree with me. That was a bad move. You should have taken him. The Raiders had a pick 37, I believe, and we trade that pick. 38 Patriots take Travion Henderson, 39 Bears take Luther Burden. that was the wrong move in my opinion because Burden's looked really, really, really good. And I'm pretty sure Luther Burden's going to be the number one wide receiver for the Bears going into next season. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to draft him in fantasy because I think he's going to be one of the best receivers next year. Uh, anyways, appreciate the super chat, Mr. Lindsay. Apologies if I say that wrong. Is there any actual evidence that Charles Grant is going to play on the right side of the Raiders' offensive line? There is no evidence of that. For all we know, the Raiders could say we're going to move off of Colt Miller and put Charles Grant in that left tackle. But I think we can, look at the offensive line and evaluate the offensive line and just look at the group of guys and say, okay, our best offensive lineman is our left tackle. It doesn't make sense to say we're going to put a guy in that's a little raw to replace our best offensive lineman. That doesn't make sense, right? It would not make any sense at all when the right tackle gave up, 11, 12 sacks this season and struggled as hell, right? So, yeah, there's no evidence that we're going to move him to the right tackle position. But, I think naturally that's kind of what the Raiders need to figure out, right? I think that's the one position they got to figure out. And given the fact that Grant is an offensive tackle at the end of the day, it makes sense to move him to the right tackle spot. This first year, we knew he had to develop and the speed of the game is going to be fast for him. There's technique issues. There's going to be things Grant has to develop. It made sense to let him play left tackle so he can get reps in at left tackle for this season. But going forward, he's going to have to make that switch. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a transition for him to make that move. But I do think he'll be able to do it. It's not the end of the world, to be honest with you. I know it's difficult. It's not the end of the world. Make it happen. And again, I think for the Raiders, this is the natural move given we need a right tackle. And I think it'd be a mistake to say, hey, draft the right tackle in the second round this year, leave Charles Grant at left tackle, and trade Colt Miller. I think that's a mistake. Colt Miller is, I think he just turned 30 maybe like a month ago, if not less than that. He just turned 30. And Colt Miller, he's I know he's had some injury issues recently, but the injury he had the last 2 years has been the same injury. He kind of like Maxx Crosby decided not to get surgery when he probably should have, and it essentially just continued, right? Lingered, essentially, right? And this year was different. He had the high ankle sprain, but Colt Miller's been fairly healthy over the course of his career. So I don't think it would be an issue for Colton. And honestly, Colt Miller was playing like a top 5 tackle before he got hurt. So if he can be fully healthy going into the offseason, put the work in, come back next year, I think he's going to end up being really good for the Raiders. I think tackles get better with age. So I think Colt Miller is going to end up being really good for the Raiders. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll be shocked if Charles Grant ends up playing left tackle. I'd be shocked. LFG, we will attract coaches and players now. This is one of the things that a lot of people do not think about right here. People don't realize this, man. It is such, the key reason why we did not land Ben Johnson last year was because we did not have a quarterback. We, our players are kind of average. Salary cap was not very flexible. We didn't have a lot of things that could potentially attract a coach. The Bears, on the other hand, complete opposite. They have a quarterback that was the first overall pick. The offensive line, they already had a franchise tackle on the right side. And that's all they really had last year, realistically. They just traded for or drafted everyone else. From right guard to left tackle, every single player the Bears have right now is different than what it was before Ben Johnson got here. But with that, they also had some defensive players that were pretty good. And again, it's the fact that they had that quarterback. They were able to, kind of have the flexibility in their cap space. And Ben Johnson took that over coming to the Raiders and saying, hey, I may be fired in 2 years if the Raiders don't figure it out. We're now at a point where Clint Kubiak can come here and say, hey, they're in a good spot. They have the first overall pick. They have $100 million in cap space, and it's flexible as hell. And realistically, we have our offensive line that actually could be good. Colt Miller, DJ Glaze, JPJ, Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant, those 5 guys could be a good offensive line unit. Maybe you upgrade 1 or 2 positions, but you don't need to bring in 5 new starters. Like, you have pieces there, right? So we will see. We'll see what ends up happening. But I agree. We will attract coaches and players now. And it'll definitely be a huge part of if the Raiders will be able to win is the assets we have and the coaches will be able to attract. East Oakland 91. The first thing we needed to do before any things to talk to Maxx Crosby and see if he's on board with a bit of a rebuild, if not trade him. I think Max Crosby is okay with a little bit of a rebuild. It's not like the Raiders are going to go into this next season and say we're trading everybody. The Raiders are going to try to win next year, right? As soon as they draft that quarterback, they're looking to win the Super Bowl from that point forward. Now we're probably not going to win, given the fact that we're probably not going to win, given the fact that we have a rookie quarterback. But you never know what's going to happen, right? And at the end of the day, any coach can get the best out of any player, any group of guys. And I think from the moment the Raiders get that rookie quarterback, and if we bring in Clint Kubiak, now let's also be honest. If you're Clint Kubiak, and I want you guys to really think about this, what job seems like a better job? Do the Raiders' job seem like a better job than the New York Giants' job? Right? I think there's pros and cons for sure, but what job seems better? If you're, of course, right, you can get a quarterback if you're the Raiders, but is the quarterback the Raiders are going to draft? And again, you get to pick your own quarterback, and I 100% agree with that. But then on the other side, you look at the Giants' defensive line. That is an elite defensive line. That defensive line will win you games. If you can score 24 points, that defense and that defensive line will win you games. So it's not guaranteed that the Raiders will get Clint Kubiak, but I think we're going to be one of the top two teams. It's to be the Giants or the Raiders. I don't think Clint Kubiak's going to take the Jets job, right? I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, the Jets might not even fire their coach if they might not fire him, given they might not even be able to add someone else, right? We will see if Clint Kubiak takes the Raiders job or the Giants job. I do also want to just kind of throw this out there. For the Raiders, money has not been an issue in terms of like Mark Davis paying guys. So, I believe Ben Johnson got like $13 million a year. I think that's what was the reported number. Mark Davis had offered him the same amount of money that he got from the Bears. So money for Mark Davis is not an issue. So if Clint Kubiak wants $13 million, Mark Davis will make that happen. I think Josh McDaniels also got like $9-10 million a year. We know Gruden was getting $100 million contract. McDaniels got very similar per year to what Gruden got. Even Pete Carroll got a ton of money, right? It was a 3-year contract. Mark Davis is invested in the Raiders' future to win, and he will fire coaches. He'll hire coaches. He'll do whatever it takes to kind of win. And for the first time, and I'm gonna just wrap it up with this. For the first time, the Raiders are actually in a good spot where you're not rolling into the next season with a quarterback that's not going to be good, right? Like we've had, I think for Derek Carr, for example, 2019 would have been the year to move off of Derek. I think that was the year where, like, for me, it was clear he's not a good quarterback anymore. We stuck with him for a couple more years. And then we just went through 3 years of bridge quarterbacks, and that was probably the wrong decision. But we also weren't in a position to actually draft a quarterback, right? This year, we're in position to finally reset as a franchise, and that's kind of my point. A resetting doesn't happen as easily as some people might think. You look at the Bears as an example. In 2017, they drafted a quarterback in Trubisky. I don't remember if he was the first overall pick or the second, but the Bears drafted a quarterback in the top 5 essentially. It took them 5 years to basically reset, or maybe it was 4 years after they got Trubisky. And even then, that was Justin Fields. And I think Fields was the 15th overall pick. So it took them 5 years to reset from Trubisky to Justin Fields. That didn't work out. It took them another 4 years to get to Caleb Williams. So from the time these guys drafted Trubisky, it took them like 7-8 years to get to the point they're at right now. If not even longer than that, like 8-9 years, I guess, at this point. Regardless, I say that because for the Raiders, it's not going to be as easy. It's not easy to get to this point right here where you're able to reset the right way, right? That's my entire point. Hopefully this one works out for the Raiders, because if it doesn't, I'm telling you guys, we're all going to be 5 years older until the Raiders get that next quarterback. If Fernando Mendoza does not take us to the Super Bowl, we will all be 5 years older when the Raiders finally get to that point where they can draft another quarterback, where they can move forward. And that's if they even do it, right? Like, it's been 4 years since we moved off of Derek Carr, right? Or has it been 4 years? I guess it's been 3 years, right? It's 3 separate quarterbacks. So hopefully the Raiders are able to get a good quarterback and we're able to win as we kind of move forward. So maybe the final super chat, or before we get into the super chat, shout out to Eduardo for becoming a member I don't know what a member is. I honestly, I don't even remember setting this stuff up. I think it's been like 3 or 4 years. We will do more member type of content. I think I'm going to do film breakdowns for members, like uh, low edit, just me talking for like 10, 15 minutes, where I could just talk, post the video without having to edit. It'll be faster for me. I think the value is still there for you guys, and it obviously supports the channel. Given if you're not a member, of course, right, you want to get access to that, but those videos get demonetized anyway. So being members, it might make sense for me to make that type of content. And if I do that, I'll announce that, so you guys will all kind of know. Robert, shout out to you. Said best way to start the new year. It's our time now. Love to see Kansas City Chiefs fans waste their money in Vegas. See ya, Mr. Swift. Has he officially announced his retirement, Travis? Anyone ask him? That'd be kind of interesting to see if he's gonna announce the retirement or not. But why Lockie Tossy didn't play? Why not Thornton over 33 or Lockett? This is clearly an example of incompetence of this regime. I don't know what to tell you, man. I think at this point, there's so much that Pete Carroll's done this season that makes no sense to me. I'm actually surprised, right? I am surprised that we actually saw Charles Grant play. I'm actually surprised. I had heard he was supposed to play, right? Someone told me that, but I'm surprised he actually ended up playing. But I'm glad he played because we needed to be able to see that. And watch his tape tomorrow. We'll definitely be able to break down the tape of Charles Grant tomorrow. We'll see what ends up happening, man. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Shout out to all of you guys. Enjoy, man. And I know we won. I think that's probably less enjoyable than getting the actual first overall pick. But I hope you guys enjoy it, man. We're gonna do a lot of content on this channel as we can, continue to go forward. Something tells me tomorrow we'll be making the Charles Grant video, but another video with Pete Carroll potentially resigning or being fired. We will see what ends up happening, man. I hope you guys